Welcome everybody to my first poker vlog on YouTube. My name is Owen, aka All in Owen. If you came from my Instagram page, subscribe to the channel, drop a like. I'm going to be posting a lot of these vlogs. I have a 20K tournament coming up in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. If you found me on YouTube, go check out my Instagram, the link's in bio. Blinds are 200, 400, and I looked down at ace 4 offsuit with ace of clubs. Under the gun had limped. Everyone else had folded, so I decided I probably have the best hand at the moment. Let me raise to 1100. The button initially calls. The small blind decides to think about his actions before getting out the way. The big blind also gets out the way, and the initial under the gun limper decides to come along as well. We're off to a flop, which comes 7 of clubs, 7 of spades, 9 of clubs. We have the ace of clubs, even on a paired board, so we still have to c-bet out for 1500. The dealer button gets out of the way. The under the gun limper decides to ask his neighbor for change, which he then throws in the 1500, and we go off to see a turn. All set. The turn brings an interesting card, 10 of spades. So now there's backdoor spades, and any 8 has a straight draw, so I bet out for 2500. My opponent immediately calls, and we're off to see a river, which is an 8. So now there's a 4 line into a straight. My opponent checks me, which I think he might have been on a flush draw. But anyways, I decide I'm no good at showdown most likely, and I want to put pressure on any one pair hand, or even if he has a missed draw and has ace high and wants to come along as well. I bet for 6,000 and we get a snap fold. The blinds are now up to 300, 600. There's a couple limpers to me in the big blind. I look down at 4-9 offsuit, so we're not putting any more money in. We check our option.
2, 4, no, you didn't.
A couple players break change before the button puts out the flop. The ace of spades, deuce of diamonds, jack of clubs. It checks around. We go to the 8 of diamonds. Once more, it checks around. And then the river comes, jack of hearts. I don't think anyone has a jack because a jack probably would have bet the turn. We decided just to bet out for 1200 in case nobody hit this flop or wants to put chips in. And surely enough, we knock it down with 9 high. The next hand, I look down, ace of diamonds, 10 of spades. We're in middle position, the blind's 300, 600. There's no action in front of me, so I decide I need to put in a raise. I raise to 1400. A couple players get out the way, the button's out of the way. Small blind's not good enough to come along. After the small blind finishes a message to her kids, she tries to check her option, but she doesn't realize there's a raise in front of her. She decides her hand's good enough to come along for 1400. She throws in the call, and the under the gun limper decides to also throw in the call. You got 7 right there. After making sure every opponent put the right amount of money in the pot, we're off to a flop, and the flop comes jack of spades, 6 of spades, 10 of diamonds. We have bottom pair top kicker, and we have backdoor the 10 of spades. I obviously have to c-bet. I just had to c-bet for 1700, a little bit over half pot, or a little bit under half pot. The big blind thinks for a little bit. Ultimately, she gets rid of her cards. Under the gun's kind of considering whether I'm just betting at this, or whether or not I hit this flop, but ultimately she decides that her hand is not good enough to play, and she decides to let it go. We scoop another good pot. This next hand, the big blind. I look down at queen, 6, queen of diamonds, 6 of hearts. My hand's not good enough to put more money in when there's about 5 players that already limped. We see a flop, and it comes ace hearts, 10 of hearts, and the 10 of spades. We check with no intentions to put money in. A single bet will get us out of there. And the player in under the gun +1 makes it easy for us, and we get out the way. So after those first few hands, I'm up a little bit over starting stack. Now I got a couple chips to kind of blast off and play with. Try to play some bigger pots, chip up even more. So blinds are 400, 800. I got queen jack off, and I'm on button, meaning I get to deal my own cards. So hopefully I can put some good cards out there for myself. I'm going to raise to 1600. The big blind decides to come along. Under the gun, who had previously limped, decides to come along. And the low jack decides she wants to see a flop as well. So we're going 4 ways, and myself, I get to put out the 10 of spades, king of diamonds, and the 4 spades. So we got an open-ended straight draw. And my opponent actually donks out in front of me for a little bit of a down bet of 1,200. The opponent in the low jack decides to think, like, what possibly could this opponent have that they're donk betting with that? I decide it's probably weakness and probably also draw. They could have like jack knife or a gut shot and something else. So I decide to raise 3,500. When the big blind starts to think for this long, I'm kind of a bit worried that he's going to reopen the betting with the re-raise. But he ends up getting out the way. He must have like a gut shot or something that he had decent equity if he hit a card and could get some chips. The initial raiser decides to just smooth call, and then the low jack decides there's too much money for her to fold now. So she throws in a 5K chip, takes her other chips back, and she gets her change, and we're off to a turn. Now this is where it gets fun. The ace of hearts. We drill Broadway. We have the absolute nuts and only a flush card on the river. Any spade would take the lead from us. I decide to milk for value, charge those draws, because we cannot get any worse of a straight, so we can only chop if it really came a bad card. So I throw out a 5K chip, a little bit over half pot, maybe a third pot. The end of the gun decides to call, and we only can love to see a call from the low jack. We survive the river. It's an offsuit 6 of clubs, meaning we have the stone cold nuts. Both my opponents checked me. I kind of think of jamming all in, but I can only really get called by something that I chop with. Under the gun gets out the way. The low jack decides to call, and of course we show the stone cold nuts and we're good. So we scoop 12K from her. We win this huge pot and we're rolling. For this hand, I'm the small blind. The big blind's a dead stack, so there's no action behind us. There's 2 limpers in front of me. The button decides to make it 3. I look down at ace 7, the ace of spades. I decide to pull a squeeze play on to 2,200. One player folds. Another player folds. Cut off. And the button decides he wants to see a flop for 2,200. The button had kind of initially went to go raise, but figured his hand wasn't strong enough, so we ended up just calling, which I picked up on. So I know where we're ahead.
Oh, was he 6?
Flop comes king 3-7.
Oh, it was big. So
I mistakenly had had given too much change to the dead stack, so we fixed that. And I look at the flop. Your middle pair, there's a bunch of flush draws, even straight draws. So I decided to fire out for 2,500. Player on the button decides to make a call. Kind of setting off some alarm bells, but I still think my opponent's on a draw. And if he wasn't on a draw, it gets even scarier, because then a second king comes in. So I check. My opponent checks back, which is kind of interesting, but then the 4 line into the flush comes in with the 4 of hearts. I decide I pretty much have to make a range bet because my opponent checked back turn, so he was kind of scared of something. My opponent snaps me off. He already had the chip in hand. I tell him I don't have a flush. Shows Jack 9 of hearts for a turn, Jack high flush.
No, he had it.
And he's going to knock down this pot, and we're going to lose 4,200 on that river.
Yeah.
I sold myself on that. What are you gonna sell me for? I sold myself in that fight. If I didn't call.
Yeah, you're right. I probably wouldn't have bet that if it didn't come.
In this next hand, I got queen 10 off. I'm in the big blinds. Under the gun plus 2 had to raise to 1,700. Blinds are 400, 800, so I figure I have enough equity for 900 more early on when we're playing very deep to see a flop. Comes 9-9-7 rainbow. I check with no intentions to put money in. My opponent checks back. Comes the deuce of clubs. I have the same intention to check. Maybe I'll call. keep him honest, see a river. But after deciding, I decide to check. My opponent checks back, and the third 9 comes out. I don't think I can get much better to fold, and I don't want to put any money in when I'm probably beat. So I check. My opponent checks back and shows king, queen of clubs, and we're beat. In this next hand, we're the small blind with the big blind being a dead stack. Blinds are 400, 800, and we see under the gun raise to 2,800, which is a pretty big initial raise, over 3.5x. Under the gun +1 decides to call, just a smooth call, which is a little alarming for early position. But we looked down at pocket 3s, so with the hope of finding a set mining, we decided to call because we're playing so deep. We started this tournament with about 50,000 in chips each, and the blinds were 200, 400, and it's only level 4. We've only been playing for an hour. However, the flop comes ace, queen, 10, 2 hearts. I check with no intentions of putting any money in. A single bet will get me out of there. We could already be drawing dead if opponent has like king, jack, and after we see the initial under the gun raise their bet, we fold. Blinds go up to 600, 1,200, and I'm in the big blind. I look down at ace of diamonds, 8 of hearts, and we have a couple players still acting in front of us. We got a couple whips, and I decide I have a decent ace, so I'm going to put a squeeze play on. I squeeze to 3,200.
Raise.
Cutoff was the initial limper. Decides to think about if she has enough to call, but she doesn't. However, the button decides she's going to play out the cards, so she wants to see a flop, and then the small one goes out the way. So we're heads up to a flop. Flop comes king, queen, 6, rainbow. I decide we're more likely to have the overcards, so I fire out 3,200 to go. My opponent doesn't even take her time to think about it. She throws the call. Go to return, which is the king of hearts. And I think my opponent probably doesn't have a king here, but I'm going to put the pressure on if she doesn't. So I bet out for 6,200. So that's about a pot-sized bet, maybe a little less. She decides to think for a bit. She tells me that I've been taking too many pots, so I'm pretty much putting her on a queen right here. And she thinks about it for a little bit, decides to have some table talk, and then she gathers chips and throws a call. So we're off to a river. I'm pretty much firing anything here unless an ace comes. She burns and puts out a brick, inconsequential for a spades. So
How much you playing?
I asked her how much she has left. We're playing so deep, so it's way too much for me to go all in. Like almost 100 big blinds. So I decided 11,000 is the right number to fire out for. If she wants to make a hero call with either a 6 or a queen, she's got to earn it. So our opponent goes into the tank, so let's see what she does. After about a minute and a half or a minute of unsuccessfully putting us on a hand, my opponent throws in a hero call, and she turns over queen 6 for a counterfeited 2-pair. This is the start of our downfall right here as we lose a big pot. After we're sun running and even getting bluffs through, we just finally get picked off here.
I've had it every time. That was the only one I didn't. I put you on a queen.
Now we're about an hour into play. Blinds are still 600, 1,200. I'm in the high jack, down at pocket jacks. I raise to 3,600. The cutoff is out the way, and the button is kind of up to no good. They are gathering a lot of assorted chips, and it doesn't look like they want to play for only 3,600. They announce a raise to 8,900. Small blind, big blind, get out the way. I kind of think for a minute I'm probably up against either ace-king or a dominated pair.
So,
I just decide to call because I want to see a flop. If I drill a jack, I'm going to get a full double up, and I'd have so much chips that it's just worth seeing a flop for that price. Flop comes king high with only clubs to draw. I check with no intention to bet or even put chips in. My opponent snap jams. I kind of just look at it, make sure that he's probably not no good, or there's not a reasonable price in for me to call. I
didn't
fold
want
up
to
my
fold
jacks.
pre-flop in case you had
My
ace king,
opponent
but
shows 2 queens, so he was getting tricky. Didn't think I had a king.
I actually was thinking
so
about
we
open
lose
jamming,
about
but
10K, so that's
I
like a
thought you
6
had
bar
king.
stack. Not good to get a premium in the spot. In the very next hand after I pick up pocket jacks, I look down at ace king off in the low jack. I raised once more to 3,600 with blinds being 600, 1,200. So it's about 2.5x open
25.
phase. No more raise for this part of the tournament.
She'll be happy to get her gift back.
I asked
I
a
raised to
local
30. I raised to
neighbor for
36.
change. Put up my 3,600. Players behind me got out the
Thank
way until the same opponent who had just 3-bet me in that last pot decides they want to do the same thing and
raised
then
to
3-bet to 10,200. What are the odds the same opponent who just had queens could
How
have
much you
aces or
got,
kings?
Brian?
So I think at worst I'm flipping. I
All
just
in.
had a major stack and I lost it on some bad pots. So I put it all in and our opponent beats us into the pot. He shows pocket aces. Not looking good for us. Flop comes 10 high with backdoor hearts
Yeah,
and
heart.
backdoor wheel draw.
That's it.
The 6 of diamonds on the turn nails us dead.